morning everyone, it's Carol at Oak House Journals. Thank you for joining me. As always, it's lovely to have you with me. Apologies if I've been a little bit absent in terms of replying to your comments of late. I'm really pushing on with my Margarete Miller assignments, trying to get them all completed ahead of time so that you've got videos to watch from here until the end of the year when the challenge is finished. So apologies for that, just thought I'd mention that quickly. Right, okay, so these are the prompts for assignment 45. As always, information in the description box below the video to Margarete's 2025 challenge. So the first prompt is fire or smoke. Well, I've gone with this piece of decorative paper and I've gone for fire or smoke in terms of the colour. So this is a nice smoky colour, so I'm going to be using that. But also to hit the prompt, I've got this tiny little image here of a red sun between, I think this is more smoke. It looks more akin to smoke than clouds. So I've got those to use for that first prompt. Something with a spine. I've got this stamp here of a Merlin, and these are common in Scotland or throughout all of England actually. But I've got that to use. Something that starts with a B. I've fussy cut out a bagpipe. And you can see I've got a Scottish theme going on here today. Something royal. Well, I've gone with Royal Mail, and this is a vintage Royal Mail delivery van that I fussy cut. I think you can just make out there over my thumbnail the word Royal Mail. And I've also got this little label that I got off a package recently that says first class, so I'm going to be using those. A famous city, a monochrome skyline of Edinburgh. I've chopped this portion off the bottom and I may well use it, so I'm keeping that off to one side. But yeah, this is the very famous skyline of Edinburgh. So you've got Edinburgh Castle there, the bridge, there's the castle. You've got this monument that's in the centre of the park. Not sure what that one is. It's part of the clock tower, maybe the library. So I've got that image to use. And then the final prompt, the bonus prompt, is chevron or zigzag pattern. Can't get my words out as usual. So I've printed off this little zigzag pattern here. So I've got that to use. So as always, prompts up there. And this I've already trimmed to inside my working area. Probably won't be using the decorative element down here. I do want that colour up there. So let's have a look at this. That on there like that. And I'm going to try and get the tower in here. So I'm going to trim it there so that my line comes down there. And I'm going to try and trim it just inside that clock tower there. So let's get on with that. So I'm going to have that going across there like that. I'm going to pull it down a little bit. I'm wondering if I can get it that way on there like that. That would be quite nice. Maybe try and make use of the smokiness. So let's move this over a little bit more. So I want to see if I can get a little bit of a border with this smokiness. Having to be quite careful because I don't want to pick up these leaves too much. I'm kind of thinking this I'm going to tuck in underneath. And I'm going to commit. I'm going to trim this down there and again down there so that it fits right across my working area. I'm not going to trim the bottom off for now, just work with that top area. See how much of this I can get in. Liking that I've got a little bit on either side. Just going to ease that underneath for the moment. Now I am thinking about trimming that on either side, but for now I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to bring in my car or my van, maybe have it something like that. Pop that under here just so that it's peeping out a little bit. Might not use that, but for now I just want it in. My bagpipes, I think I'm going to make use of them down here and use that pipe there to just mask that bottom edge down there a little bit. Ooh, I want to use that portion. Looks lovely. I might actually bring it in and wreck the whole skyline because I do like it. I like the height there. Where's my first class stamp? That's where it's gone. I'm going to drop my van down a little bit. This perhaps in there. Yeah, it sort of lends itself to going in there, doesn't it? Like that. And I've got to get this in somehow. I'm wondering if I can make use of that wheel for down there. Let's have a look at that. I'll take that out. It's not working for me really. Maybe if I put it over this side. Yeah, that works. And then I can angle my bagpipes a little bit more. Just wondering if I can angle that a little bit better. I'm going to turn this round, see if it looks any better the other way round. And yeah, I'm going with that arrangement. Not really liking the chevron. It would be better if that was smaller, but I've got to get it in. Looking at this, it's not really sitting nicely for me. I don't like how this piece works with this piece, although it does sit well with the smokiness of the background of this piece. Not really liking the chevron, if I'm honest, but it works well with the other pieces that I've got. So I'm wondering about changing that out. Now I do have another piece of that chevron patterned paper, so I'm just going to slide it in behind. It's only a small piece, and I'm wondering if that would work better. And yeah, it does. So that's what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to work with these two chevron pieces and take this one out. So I've more or less got my composition how I want it for this one. You've noticed I've just taken that away. I would like to use it, but I think I've got enough detail going on there. I just like the height of that element there, really, but I have got that, so I'm not going to use that. I did mention I might use my Edinburgh, and I still might. I might find a little home for that, just as a little snippet to go on. So I'm just going to move these all out and glue them into place, really. I'm just going to work out what size I need for this, and both these pieces have a little white border all the way around, so I'm going to take that away. Maybe leave it across the bottom. Do the same with this one. So again, I'm going to leave it across the top, but not the bottom. It actually really doesn't matter across the bottom because there's going to be a join. So I'm just going to check that these two pieces are the same size, and yes they are. Now I'm going to have a mishmash where these two join, but that won't matter because that'll be hidden. This one here. Can't glue these until I work out how I want my other pieces placed. So don't want too much showing of the chevron because it's quite a bold pattern, but I have got a little bit on either side, which I quite like. This was the deciding factor, this one really. So I'm going to have that angled there. That's something like that. So that needs to move over a little bit. Don't want it angled so much. And make use of that arch to frame the top of the van. I am going to try and make use of that because I like the pop of red. I'm trying to use up as much of that white space down there with the bagpipes and actually have that middle pipe in the archway there. And then, as I had before, my stamp in there. Just want to have a look at this turned round the other way again. I like that trail of smoke coming down to this circle, but it gives me a space here which I'm not liking, so I'm just going to put that back as it was, like that. Okay, I'm liking that, so I'm going to start putting some glue on these pieces. I'm going to try and line up the chevrons on those two pieces there as best I can. So I'm going to hold those in place, put a little bit of glue along the edge. Those pipes are getting a little bit lost on this background, but I think it's all right. I'm going to reduce this chevron here in the background just a little bit. So I'm just going to bring in my ruler and measure how much I want to take off. So I'm going to take off about that much across there. I'm going to leave that as is. So that's my finished collage for this week. I trimmed out that word Edinburgh because I wanted to see whether or not I could pop it on here. Now that makes it too busy in that corner. It could go up in there. That would be quite nice. It's quite discreet being on a white background, but it gives enough detail. I like it straddling if I'm going to have it up there. The other place I thought I could have it would be down here. But then this whole corner down here is looking very, very heavy. So I think if I have it anywhere, I shall have it up here. It just breaks up that little top corner, which is very, very white and probably not the best in terms of composition. So as I said, I'm going to have it half on, half off up here like that, and hope that it stands out a little bit. So there we go, everybody. Definitely my finished piece for this week. And if I quickly bring in the prompts and go through those with you. The first thing we have is fire or smoke. Well, I had that smoky background, which I ditched, but I do have my smoke down here. Something with a spine, I've got my Merlin. Anything that starts with a B, well, keeping in with the Scottish theme, I've got my bagpipes. Something royal, my Royal Mail van and my Royal Mail first class label there. A famous city, well, as I've just labelled it, that is Edinburgh's skyline. And finally, bonus, a chevron or zigzag pattern. And I've done it again, haven't I? So bonus, a chevron or zigzag pattern. Well, I've got that piece in the back there, which I pieced together. So, yeah, I like this one. Quite cute, I think. I like the pops of colour. It would have been better with another area of red because I've got one area there, even though it's made up with two pieces. I've got one area there and one area here, and you really need a rule of three, so perhaps maybe up here would have been good to kind of balance it out, but I haven't got anything red that I could pop in the corner there, so I'm quite happy with not doing so. So as always, everybody, some photographs at the end for you to have a quick look at, and I hope you'll join me next week for assignment number 46. Take care now. Bye bye.